The previous basket is under review.
Into another episode of Weekend Under Review. That is Matthew Winick. I am Brian Rauf. Winick is back from the NBA Combine. Our boy had a front row seat at some of the top draft prospects. We'll get to all that here in a little bit. Excited to break down Combine and do some draft talk this episode. We'll touch on some more rosters and college basketball side of things towards the end of the show, but it is draft time. Combine just happened. We've got to pick Winick's brain a little bit, see what's going on there. Not before we remind you, subscribe to Basket Under Review if you have not already. Doing so gets you access to all of our paywalled content on the website, basketunderreview.com, and access to the Discord, which is where Charlie Donovan posts all of his scoops, insights, intel. No better place to be if you're a basketball fan, specifically a college basketball fan, basketball fan in general, than in the Basket Under Review Discord. Make sure you subscribe today to get access to that and also the premium content on the website. Okay. Winick, let's talk about the Combine. I'm interested in what you saw specifically, but obviously there were lots of guys who really helped themselves and I think improved their draft stock at the Combine, whether that be some of the physical measurements, the athletic testing, also some of the scrimmage play. Feels like it's been a couple of years since we've had a couple people pop in the scrimmages, but that happened this year. So in your mind, who is somebody who helped themselves, if not the most, as much as anybody else?
So I got three guys for you, two of which who did not participate in the scrimmage, so we'll start there. Christian Anderson was the best shooter at the Combine. Yeah, you just add up all the drills, just the way that the form looked, the comfortability in which he gets into his shot. But we saw him win games on his own with his shot making. There was like a slight chance he was coming back to college. We were thinking he might go to the transfer portal. That's not happening. He's the best shooting guard in this draft. I mean, point guard, but shooting the ball guard. And he proved that in front of NBA scouts at the Combine. Morez Johnson, another guy who's like, well, maybe. No, he's not coming back. He looked fantastic. He moves so well. The jumper fell in his drills. Of course, they're just drills, but it looked like he has some real shooting upside, which he showed in flashes at Michigan, and just that athleticism. Playing beside so many great athletes, I feel like he was underrated in terms of just the upside as an NBA athlete. I think that he is going to rise as we get towards the June draft, and he'll be definitely a first-round pick. And then lastly, someone who everyone's been talking about who did go in the scrimmages but only played in one day is Cam Carr out of Baylor. Now, there are questions about what that looks like on a winning team because he had not done that at Baylor. They really struggled this year with him and potential other NBA draft pick Tunde Yesufu in the backcourt, but you cannot deny the size and the insanely long athleticism and the way that he shoots the basketball. He looked better than every other player on the floor and looked more like an NBA player than everybody else on the floor in the scrimmages.
The last guy I remember seeing on TV, on the broadcast, the last guy I remember seeing put forth that kind of performance where it was very clear that he was playing on a level different than everybody else in the Combine that was kind of unexpected. Not that Cameron Carr isn't good. We know that he is. Was Kyle Kuzma. Like Kyle Kuzma went from is he going to be, where is he going to go? Is he going to get picked? Where in the second round is he going to go? Played his way into the back end of the first round because of the way he performed in those scrimmages. I think Carr's got better draft stock than Kuzma, and obviously a different scenario here, but he showed out as well. Matt Abel showed out too, to where now there's some talk about whether he may not end up at UNC. He may keep his name in the draft. What did you see from him?
Good size, shoots the ball well. He's not one of those guys that's going to pop in one particular area. It's not like best athlete or best shooter or best ball handler, but he can do a little bit of everything. He was on a sort of bit of a jumbled NC State team where he was not able to be the guy. Perhaps in retrospect, he should have been the guy. Perhaps more Abel and Paul McNeil would have been the answer to NC State, but money and roster allocation. I think it would benefit him to come back. I think he'd be a surefire first-round draft pick with a good year under Mike Malone's system. But, if you're getting a top 30 promise, then might as well stay.
Yeah, and there's some talk that Malachi Moreno might have a top 30 promise as well. Like, he is somebody who surprisingly did not play in any of the scrimmages. We could have the conversation about Kentucky, what Kentucky looks like if he does not come back to school. But that's somebody who there's been buzz building as well about him potentially having a promise and being a first round.
I think that he's another guy. It's like if he's the best player in Kentucky next year, that's great for his draft stock. But of course, if you get that first round promise,
Yeah, both Moreno and Abel, I'd like to see come back because both of them showed flashes of what they could do last season, right? But you want to see that be some more consistent production before they take the next step in their development and go to the professional ranks. You probably make more money in college basketball next year than what you're going to make your rookie year in the NBA. I know there's talk about you want to get to your second contract quicker, and there are different elements and factors in the equation than just what your offer is for the coming season. I think not that I'm suggesting what they should or should not do. I think it would benefit both of them from a on-court skill standpoint to come back to college and be more of the guy and show you can turn those flashes into consistent production. If you do that in what projects to be a weaker class next year, particularly at the top, you could really improve your stock and go somewhere that you don't have a chance of reaching right now. What else? I think this was your first combine you went to, correct? I have never been. So what else do we need to know from the combine? What are some takeaways that you picked up while you were there?
Yeah, we'll go rapid fire here. Bennett Sturts can play off the ball because he was number one in the spot up shooting drill. We never seen him be a spot up shooter. He's only ever had the ball in his hands. He can do that. I have confidence that he can play off the ball if he needs to. That was really impressive. Two guys that I really was not impressed with, and I don't want to be too negative, but Alan Graves and Tyler Tanner, both of whom looked very small for their position. Tyler Tanner was the smallest guy at the combine, not named Braden Smith, but we knew that. But Braden Smith, it looked more apparent with Tyler Tanner. He's not the floor general that Smith is in the way that he's so versatile in college basketball. You can't be versatile when you are the smallest player on the floor. And it really showed in the scrimmages, especially. Alan Graves measured more like a wing than a big. Of course, he has the advanced analytics stats at Santa Clara, but those weren't popping in his combine measurements to where it's like, okay, this guy's a freak athlete. He's not a freak athlete. He's a good athlete. He's functionally has good size, but you'd imagine someone with those insane metrics would be a little bit more of an eye-popping guy if you're going to draft a bench player from Santa Clara. That was a little bit concerning to me. And then one last thing, it's possible, we're not really talking about it, that Andre Stojakovic stays in the draft. I don't think he will, but there is a world in which he was number 2, I think, in standing vertical behind Toby Lawal, who was an absolute freak. And he played really well. He did good things for himself in Chicago. I think he comes back. He has a giant contract at Illinois that he's probably going to honor, but there is a chance he doesn't. Versus Flory Badunga, I can't see any world where this rumored $6 million is left on the table at Louisville. Like, he's going to go.
He measured too, 6'8", basically, without shoes. Like, he is a college size big more than he is an NBA size big. And that's kind of my thing with Tyler Tanner too. When you measure that size, like, there's part of it where it's like, okay, you are what you are. You should probably take the money in college because you got to find ways in your game to go around the size, and you're always going to have limitation. Get paid a whole bunch now, and the rookie deal will still be there when you come out. Is one of the more proven, maybe a college career for 4 years.
But the thing with Tanner is, like, we knew he's 5'10", and that's what he measured at without shoes. It was the fact that he decided to play in the scrimmage, which he didn't have to do. He went in the scrimmages, and the size was apparent in his play. He was watching that draft, and he was playing against Jacoby Gillespie. They were guarding each other. Gillespie went out for 28 points, and of course, the points aren't everything, but Gillespie made Tanner look inferior, and for someone who's barely going to get drafted, if at all, in Jacoby Gillespie, that's not really what you want to see if you're going to be a potential first rounder in Tanner taking that chance and going into that scrimmage.
The defensive concerns with Tanner or any small guard are going to be there and are paramount. You thought that Tanner's activity defensively, particularly his steal rate, his ability to come up with turnovers and create havoc, would offset that a little bit. But I think we and probably him a little bit too got a reminder, like, the size matters a little bit. You got to take the other stuff to the next level to mitigate some of that size differential there. Talk some about the fringes here and important decisions that have to be made. No important decisions for Darryn Peterson and AJ Dybantsa. They're in the draft. They're going 1 and 2. The onus is on the Wizards to figure out which one of them they want to take. That remains a hot topic, will be a hot topic between now and the draft. Dybantsa's the guy who is favored right now. There was more push I saw last week during the combine for Peterson to be the number one guy. I know there are some NBA scouts who, according to different reports, like Boozer or like Caleb Wilson. We'll get to those guys next. But the debate is still very much Peterson versus Dybantsa. It's one we've had a couple times this season. But where do you think things stand right now? How are you looking at the battle between those two for the top pick?
Watching them in person in the athletic testing, of course, I didn't scrimmage. It was really interesting because Dybantsa is a freak athlete. I mean, we've seen that on the court, but he measured as such and he competed as such. He is a monster athlete. I think that he's probably the safer pick because I don't love his shot profile right now. We talked all season about, especially in Big 12 play. And I was talking to scouts at the NBA draft combine. It was in the Big 12, force him left, force him left, force him left. And that's how we stopped getting to the rim as frequently. When we talked about it, he gets to the rim less, he settles for those pull-up, fadeaway mid-range shots, and he was way less efficient. If you think that if you're an NBA roster, you think you have better spacing, it's a wider floor, it's a better system, he has better players around him, and you can get to the rim more, I'm taking Dybantsa first because you cannot teach the ball handling size skill combo. With Peterson, he did not seem that athletic. He was fine in the athletic testing drills. He hit a lot of spot-up threes, but really struggled off of the dribble. He weirdly made 6 of his 10 free throws, which I don't really care about, but whatever. He looked like Kansas Darryn Peterson and not prolific prep Darryn Peterson. And the combine is one small piece of the puzzle, but it felt to me like Dybantsa was more likely to be the first overall pick.
Yeah, he measured taller than Cam Boozer. Dybantsa did. Obviously has the guard skills that Peterson does. At the time he did the vertical jump, he had the highest vertical jump. I think he had finished like 3rd or 4th at the combine, was certainly top 5. He weighed more than Caleb Wilson as well. Like just athletically and physically, that's your superstar, right? I think the only question with taking him number 1 is what you said, the fact that not that he was exposed at BYU, because he wouldn't be in this conversation if he was, quote unquote exposed, but he wasn't perfect. He went through the typical hiccups that you would expect. We've seen most high profile freshmen go through. And then you have somebody like Peterson who's had his own trials that he's gone through during the season, but you also have this tantalizing skill that he puts forth. And when he's on, it's probably better than what Dybantsa has shown to this point, but you haven't gotten that as much. I heard him talk a lot too, Peterson, about how he's now that they figured out the cramping with the creatine causing it allegedly. That was the report from Ramona Shelburne at ESPN. That he's back to his normal athletic self. But like you said, that really show. I don't know if we'll see what happens in these workouts because there's a ton of workouts going to happen between now and draft time. These guys might only try out for maybe 2 or 3 teams, go through a little workout there. But I think that's going to tell teams more about how much his athleticism is back or not. Controlled environment there in Chicago with the combine. But yeah, I'm still leaning Dybantsa. Like I think the decision comes down to with him, he's more, I would say, just simplifying this in total. Dybantsa is the more athletic freak, the guy who looks more like the star. Not that Peterson doesn't look like a star, right? But I think he probably has the skill set advantage at this point offensively right now. And so the things you brought up about Dybantsa going left, and defense is kind of having the book on how to defend him. Do you trust him, and do you think he will improve off of that and then make him better? Because if he does, he has the athletic stuff that puts him past Peterson. So to me, that's what the conversation comes down to is do the Wizards, do the Jazz, with the Jazz trade up for him? Because there's talk that he wants to go to Utah. Utah wants him. Somebody else trades up. Do you believe that Dybantsa can continue to develop at a rate that will take him at least on par with Peterson? Because the athleticism standpoint, again, far leans in his favor.
But that's my thing too, where it's like I've given a lot of leeway to Darryn Peterson throughout the season at Kansas. It was hard. The spotlight was on him. He wasn't feeling like himself. But if we're talking just like mentality, where they're at, I trust Dybantsa to get better quicker. There's still a mental thing with Darryn Peterson. And I heard what he said at the media, but watching him on the court and looking at how his body language is when he's testing or after he's done his sprint or when he has a bad shooting drill. Like, it just feels like he's too hard on himself. And it's going to take real NBA reps for that to be fixed. Dybantsa is the opposite. He's oozing with confidence. He always feels like he's the best player on the court, and he moves. It's hard to explain. And I'm a numbers guy, and it feels weird for me to say, but he right now moves different than Darryn Peterson with his confidence and mentality on the floor. And I think I have more faith in him getting better faster.
I think it helps too that he already has an NBA ready isolation scoring skill set. Like, he knows how to get a shot off with nothing else going on at an NBA level, at a leading scorer on an NBA team level. And so if you are one of these teams, the Wizards are a little bit different because of the Trae Young, Anthony Davis deal that they got going on there. But if you're Utah, or you're one of these other teams that are thinking about trading up, he's somebody who I think you can rely on to go get you probably 20 a night. However much you win off of that remains to be seen with what else you put around him. But if you just roll the ball out there, I think he could score 29 in the NBA right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's get to the debate for number 3, assuming those two go top 2. The Caleb Wilson, Cam Boozer debate. We did not have as much of this debate during the college basketball season as we probably should have or would have had if Caleb Wilson had not broken both of his thumbs. Famously broke one after beating Duke against Miami, and then came back and broke the other one because he dunked it too hard in practice before the second Duke game. I don't know if that would have changed the result there in Cameron. But how do you stack this up? Because this is another one where you have the freak athlete in Wilson and the upside versus Cam Boozer, who I think did test better athletically than many were expecting, but he also brings just the pedigree, the insane production, the history of winning. How do you stack those two up right now at number 3?
I think that Caleb Wilson has the highest ceiling of anybody in this draft. I think that he could be one of the 10 best players in the league if he learns how to shoot the basketball. He cannot shoot, but I just love everything else he does. He's so athletic. He moves so, effortlessly, and just the way that, some of his dribble moves, combinations, mid post, high post, off the dribble, he gets to his spots better than nearly anybody with the dribble, with deception. Cam Boozer is put your shoulder in you and move you 3 feet, which is clearly effective, and it worked at Duke, and it's going to work in the NBA, but it only has a certain ceiling to where I think that he's going to be able to get to. I just think that Caleb Wilson, if that shot falls, and the shot has not fallen, Cam Boozer was good shooting the ball at the combine. Caleb Wilson, as expected, was not. Both can pass. Both, I trust, can defend their position pretty well. It's just, if everyone has their private workout, the people in that range. If you have confidence that your staff can get Caleb Wilson to 35% from 3 on volume, then I think you have to take him. I think that you have to take him, maybe even higher if you really think that shot falls.
Yeah, it is tough to go back, but I remember being at the Dean Dome when UNC beat Duke, and Caleb Wilson had that first half. Obviously, Seth Trimble hit the shot to win the game, but I remember watching that game and leaving that game thinking that Caleb Wilson was better. And it had been, somewhat inconsistent production. He did not perform that great in the second half of that game. There's some foul trouble and different things that happened there. I don't want to break down a game that happened 3 months ago now. But you watch that game, you leave that game thinking he is the best player on the court. Now, not that Boozer was bad. Boozer was awesome that game as well, but you saw what Caleb Wilson can be, which is somebody who could completely take over a game, completely set the tone for his team, change things around in the middle of a game for his team. Part of that was because he was making some shots, and he had counters off of that. I think they were down 13 or 15, whatever the biggest deficit in that game was. In
13.
The first half. 13.
13.
He got the ball in the short corner. They kind of cleared it out for him. Back-to-back possessions. Fadeaway jumper, drained it. Fadeaway jumper, drained it. And then he countered off it and got a step through for an easy layup through, I think it was Malik Brown, because he had just hit a whole bunch of fadeaways. That paired with the effort, paired with the athleticism, paired with the motor, is somebody who you're like, okay, I might take him second. in this draft, particularly with some of the questions about Peterson. But we didn't always get that guy. I do think his stock and the buzz around him is not where it should be because we didn't see him down the stretch of the season. But I'm with you in that. I think he's right there with Dybantsa in terms of where he could be 5 years from now.
100%. Very randomly, they're both born on July 18th. That's very bizarre. 1 year apart, but they're both born on July 18th. No, I don't know. I mean, listen, if you're an NBA draft fan and you want to get to know more of some of these guys, or you just want to go back and watch some of these college guys that are going to the NBA, watch Stanford versus North Carolina. Ibuka Okori, who I love and think should be a top 20 pick, and Caleb Wilson. Obviously, they weren't guarding each other, but just some of the moves that Okori and Wilson pulled out, their individual shot making, and Wilson for being 6'10", I think he's the best individual shot creator at 6'10" in this draft. Other guys, Nate Amen, obviously Cameron Boozer. I love his ability to create his own shot. Now, of course, not create his own jump shot because he's not hitting those, but just unassisted dunks, unassisted rim finishes. He gets to the rim and in so many different ways. I just think that's such a good blueprint for future success.
100%. Ibuka Okori is a great segue into draft sleepers who we like. Is he a sleeper that you like? And who else is on your list?
Yeah, Corey. First NBA mock draft I pull up has him at 26th. I'd take him higher. He's a 6'2" point guard, of course, but great length, can really shoot the ball. And you just think about, and I don't want to disparage Stanford last year, but the fact that team was a bubble team for a very reasonable amount of time is such a testament to Ibuka Okori and how good of a basketball player he is. He put that team on his back. I firmly believe as a bench guard, as a rookie in the NBA, he will be successful right away. And then another guy who just looked like an NBA player the entire time at the NBA draft combine was Baba Miller. And he's younger for being a senior. And he really struggled his first 2 years at Florida State, really popped at FAU, and did everything but shoot at Cincinnati. He made 2 threes in his scrimmage at the NBA draft combine, and he went 10 of 52 at Cincinnati this year. But 35% the year prior, if he's a 35% three-point shooter, he's a 10-year NBA vet because he's huge. He's an excellent passer at the 4, defends, great length, good athleticism. It's just the shot.
I think Baba Miller is somebody who can earn a spot in a rotation sooner rather than later because of the physical tools that he has, plus the passing, the defending. The scoring is what's going to ultimately determine his upside. And as you mentioned, that's kind of been inconsistent throughout his career. It feels like I've been hearing about his upside and potential for all 4 years he was in college, and we were waiting for him to pop. He didn't pop, but he was a very good, reliable player. And I think if you're an NBA team, you can get that later in the draft. I think that's awesome for you, depending, again, on where you're picking and who else is available. I want to talk about Alex Karaban. You are not going to regret picking him. If you're an NBA team, you are not going to regret picking Alex Karaban. Outside of the lottery, I would say, you're not going to regret picking him because in the lottery, you're taking your swings, you're doing all that. But if you're a playoff team trying to get better, you should draft Alex Karaban. He shot the cover off the ball all throughout his college career, did so at the combine as well. He was the leader / winner, or right up there, top of the leaderboard for every single shooting drill that they did. Teams tried to pick on him defensively all 4 years in college. None of them succeeded. He was guarding Michigan's front line and did a very good job. Obviously, he can guard on the perimeter as well. He is somebody who I am not worried about playing a role. We went back and forth, and I think I got in some hot water with UConn fans because the talk about him being one of the best, most talented players in the country, I don't think he was ever that. But you take the role he played on UConn, particularly his freshman and sophomore year. I think he can do that in the NBA right now. On a, I don't know if a playoff team right now, he could develop into that, but a fringe playoff team right now, somebody who's going to be your fourth or fifth offensive option, defend at a high level, hit his open shots, plug and play for me.
I mean, NBA teams are always looking for good complementary pieces to their stars. That's really all the draft is. Outside of the top 3, you're not drafting for a star. You're drafting for someone who fits your star. And a 6'8" guy, one of the winningest players in college basketball history, 37% 3-point shooter. He's a connector piece. He's big, he passes, he's smart, and he hits threes. And he's not a huge liability defensively. That's what every playoff team needs as their seventh man. So, like, you think about what succeeds as a role player in the playoffs, he has absolutely all of those checklists, but he's never going to be a star.
Yeah,
and you're right. He doesn't have to be.
No, and he's going to get picked later than he should because we kind of know what he is, right? He's a known commodity. There does not appear to be a lot of upside. I've been wrong about guys who I said have no upside who turned out had a lot of upside. But what he can do in his role right away in the NBA, I think is going to be incredibly valuable. He's going to have a decade-plus long career in the NBA. I think if you're a team picking outside the lottery, you don't want to miss on that, I think.
I also think he was an extremely underrated college player. I had him in the top 15 players each of the last 2 years, and he was by far the number one guy that people were like, what? Alex Cameron. I'm like, well, you're either looking at numbers too much or you're looking at athleticism too much, because those are the two things that didn't stand out. Everything else was outlier good.
I want to shout out Jaden Bradley as well, in part because I love Jaden Bradley's game, but showed well athletically, showed well in the combine, showed all the things he did at Arizona translating to a step up at this level. He was really good defensively, was not anything to write home about, but that's not a strong part of his game. We saw playmaking from him in the scrimmages. He's a second rounder to me who's going to stick for the team that drafts him and probably earn a rotation spot within 2 years in the league.
4 senior point guards: Braden Smith, Bruce Thornton, Jaden Bradley, Jacoby Gillespie. At least 2 of them will be very good NBA players. They're all small.
Yes.
None of them are that athletic. And they are older prospects, obviously, but all 4 of them had such fantastic college careers that at least 2 of them are just going to be really good in the NBA as like real point guards.
There is a chance that some of them slide into the back part of the first round too. I would not expect
probably all second round picks, honestly.
I think so too. But we've seen with NIL bringing guys back, and there's guys like Alan Graves who weren't super impressive, guys like Milan Momcilovic who weren't super impressive. There's a good chance they come back. The draft pool is already shrinking because of NIL guys coming back. There's an opportunity for them there. I did a piece that's up on basketballreview.com about like the NIL landscape and kind of why this is the case, why donors keep giving for NIL. And talking to them and talking to some coaches, it's very interesting. There's a overall sense that it is the cost of doing business and they don't want to get left behind. And so I was asked this too after the piece about like if we think this is sustainable. And I think that's kind of the big thing with this is it's sustainable. My counter to that would be that, was it 4 years ago now, when Miami made the Final Four because they paid Nigel Pack and Norchad Omier $800,000, and that was shocking. Now, like Momcilovic could get $6 million, Alan Graves could get $6 million, and no one's batting an eye at it. This is where we're at. I think it's sustainable. I don't know if the ecosystem itself is sustainable because there's got to be kind of some more structure in place with this. But the market has shown us it's sustainable. If anything, we may not have hit the ceiling of what it could be and what public interest is and what people are willing to give to this. And Peace dove into that a little bit, but there's a sense of like, okay, if I have some disposable income, I love my school. I'm going to give to my school, 1, because I love it. And number 2, because we kind of need to, or else we're going to fall behind. So I encourage you to read that piece. It's interesting talking to some donors, interesting talking to some coaches about things that they are not selling, but how they're trying to entice some donors with some value other than just give us your money and hopefully we win games.
First of all, excellent piece. I really learned a lot reading it. And second of all, that made me think about something that I learned in my studies. I graduated with a sports management degree at Columbia. And one of the things that we learned all the time was, billionaires are the people that buy professional sports organizations because no one else can afford it. And billionaires are obviously businessmen. They want to make a lot of money. It is well known that you do not make big profits owning a sports team, but they still do it. And it's because it's a commodity. It's because they want to show off. It's because they want to feel a sense of pride and a sense of competition. And so to those that are like, why would you donate all this money, be a booster, give all this money for a team that's not going to reap you financial benefits? Well, some people have money and they want to spend it on something they like. And one thing I've learned as a Canadian moving to America is people love their colleges. And if you got a lot of money, like, there is no reason to expect these people that are throwing money at their favorite teams to just say, you know what, we went 20-12 this year. It's not good enough. You get $10 next year instead of $10 million. They're going to keep spending.
They're going to keep spending. That is one reason I think college sports will always be in a place that has a healthier floor than a professional league. Not that college football is going to compete with the NFL or even college basketball with the NBA necessarily, but pro sports in this country, by and large, cannot match the connection that people have to their colleges. A lot of times you don't go to a sports team, but you went to the college that you support, or you grew up in the area, or you have a connection to it through somehow. There's a personal connection to college that doesn't exist in the pros for the most part, right? And that connection is something that is a pull for donors, and it's something that a lot of coaches rely on too to keep up in what has become a true arms race in college sports.
For sure.
Before we get out of here, this is a college basketball podcast, not an NBA draft podcast, although we may masquerade as a draft podcast for the next little bit here. But we've already touched on past couple of episodes some rosters that we've liked across the country. More time has passed now. The picture for next season is a little bit clearer. Are there any teams you want to touch on and shout out as doing a good job putting a roster together that you're excited about that we have not?
I'll tell you a team that I've heard nobody talk about the entire offseason, and I think I could give you 25 guesses, you wouldn't get which team I'm going to say. But I think that Clemson is going to be a top 25 team next year. And I haven't heard a single soul talk about it. Yeah.
No. Why top 25, huh?
I mean, first of all, let's think about some of the rosters that some of these top teams have, and they are nowhere close to being competitive yet. The point last year, the thought with Clemson was, well, they're going to be really good, but they don't have a point guard. And as it turns out, that kind of was their undoing. Dylan Hunter was good, but he wasn't spectacular. But the freshman duo of Ace Buckner and Zach Foster, who was probably more hyped going into the season, but got hurt early into the year, and then Buckner showed more as a scorer, especially getting downhill, and Zach Foster really popped as a passer. I would expect one of those guys to become a really good starter next year, now that they have a year under their belt. We saw how good Carter Welling was before he got hurt late in the year. I'm assuming he'll get back eventually next season, probably into conference play. I think he tore his ACL. But I think he has another leap in him with his athleticism at 6'10". And Dylan Faulkner, one of the best transfers I think anybody got in the portal this year, with his ability to pass, to be a hub offensively, and to block shots defensively. I think that he's the most Brad Brownell big maybe Brad Brownell's ever had. With two shooters alongside him in Cole Serta at Notre Dame and Leutaris Levicius, who was at TCU last year. I think they have shooting, they have size, they have a star big, I think, in Dylan Faulkner, and then Welling once he returns. And I just think that one of those point guards is going to pop, and this will look a lot like some of those Clemson teams we've had over the last 5 years in the Brownell era that were really, really strong squads.
Okay, I like that. The ACC itself has gotten much stronger, I think.
Yeah.
And it's been, a couple years brewing, but this offseason, Duke is going to enter next season as probably the title favorite or one of the title favorites, as long as John Blackwell doesn't pull Cedric Howard, which until he comes back and announces he's going to Duke. I know Duke fans are going to be holding their breath about that. Louisville spending tons of money in the portal. Virginia's loaded again. Like, the ACC is going to be really good. I have not talked about Boston College yet. I'm not expecting Boston College to make the tournament, anything like that. They've been an afterthought in the ACC for a very long time. What they've done in this portal, I think, is going to make them competitive in like the bottom tier, pushing to the middle tier. They're not going to touch the top teams, I don't believe. I'm not going to put it past Luke Murray getting a big upset at a hopefully full Conte Forum. But they're improved, man. Like, the guys that he has brought in, this is a respectable ACC team, not a team of find a way in a power league. This is a group of guys led by Money Williams, a group of guys who I think can compete and be a respectable team in the ACC, which for Luke Murray's first season is exactly where Boston College wants to be and should be. I also want to talk about Grand Canyon a second. Okay. A little bit off the path here.
Okay.
The Mountain West is a shell of itself because of the new Pac-12 that is the Pac-8 or 9 or whoever many, but instead of doing what the Pac-12 has done in the past and adjusted the number based on the number of teams, which I greatly respected that they actually did that, now they're sticking with the Pac-12 despite not having 12 teams. Anyway, but that has left the Mountain West with UNLV, New Mexico, Nevada, and Grand Canyon as really your 4 teams that have shown they can have success at this level. Obviously, varying levels to that. UNLV is probably the biggest brand name and the more historical centerpiece of this, but Nevada and New Mexico have been far better recently, Grand Canyon as well. Bryce Drew just keeps finding a way to make them competitive with the better mid-majors in the country. This is a team that lost a lot from last season. You're able to bring in Dylan Darling from St. John's. I think this is his level. I think he was 8 for the Big Sky level. He obviously had his moments, right, with St. John's in the Big East, but was more of a bench guy. I think the Mountain West is more his level to really thrive. I like what he's done there. Marion Dickerson coming over from USC. I know he had other stuff. He got hurt, wasn't fully. There's a lot of potential and upside there for him as well. You also go out and get a handful of guys who scored double figures at their past schools, kind of round out your bench a little bit there. I think this is a team that can win the Mountain West.
They could. I mean, they would be my pick, but they are very talented.
Yes. I go ahead.
There are coaches in that conference that I would probably take over Drew, and that's probably one of the reasons why. Like, I think Eric Olin is significantly better at coaching than to the point where, yeah, Mexico isn't as talented of a roster, but I'd still take New Mexico.
Yeah. There's also Keon Menefield, who, had his time at Arkansas and USC and then left to go try his hand in the NBA, left to be a rapper or something along those lines. And now he's back at Grand Canyon utilizing the rules before the 5-5 gets put in place. Another talented guy. I don't know what we'll get from that, but there is, as you said, talent on this team. We'll see what Bryce Drew can do with it. I agree with you. I think, I don't know if he is the best coach in this conference. I would lean Olin.
No, I agree with you. I'm going to throw one random shout since we're talking Mountain West, and we're going to get really up the board here. I think Wyoming is going to surprise people next year. I'm just going to say, I think they're going to surprise people. Okay. Wyoming, they kept Naz Myers somehow, and Naz Myers is a power conference player, and he'll stay one more year, go to the power conference level. They made some smart transfer moves. They kept Gavin Gores, their freshman big, last year, who was pretty solid. I just think that I really like what Sundance Mix is doing there. They have no money, and they're going to be middle of the pack, and that's going to be really impressive given where they're at. Now that I'm looking through the Mountain West, I think the teams that stayed, even Nevada, I like some of the guys that they added. Peter Bondel from Cal Poly, Keon Kenzie, an athletic wing from Portland State, Cedric Lath from Houston, who's basically a football player. But I like watching football players play basketball. There's a lot of interesting teams in that mix.
Yeah, the Mountain West will still be fun. It will not be as deep at the top as it has been probably the last 5 years or so. But the Mountain West will still be a fun league. It's also a special place in our hearts.
Texas State is a Mountain West team now? Is that right? Or are they in the Pac-12?
Texas State is a Pac-12 team now.
Oh, my God. I'm going to have to sit and stare at my computer for 5 hours and be like, who's where now? I know the gist, but Texas State in the Pac-12 is going to take far too long to get used to.
I think Northern Illinois is a Mountain West team for football.
Okay, as long as not for basketball, because I like that I'm happy they changed their regime there. I can't pronounce their new coach's last name, but they got him from D2. in northern Michigan, I think is the D2 they got him from. But I do not think that's a Pac-12 roster quite yet.
No, they are a Horizon League team for basketball and all other sports. But for football, Northern Illinois is a Mountain West team.
Very quickly, we talk about the NIL era and transfer portals and how things change. Northern Kentucky in the Horizon got BJ Davis-Ray from SMU, a four-star in his sophomore season. When did Horizon League schools get 4 stars as a sophomore? Like the reallocation of talent is so fascinating, and I hope that he kills it. But the thing is, if he does kill it, he's spending 1 year at Northern Kentucky, and then he's going back to the power conference level. So it's really just a crazy distribution of talent right now.
I think that's kind of the pitch, though, if you're Darryn Horn, right? Just, hey, you're really talented. Come here for a year, kill it, and then you'll make a lot more money, but you can ball out here.
Is that good for the sport?
We can do a whole episode on that. I don't know if we have enough time to answer that here on this show. No, but I think contracts would help with that. But again, that's another conversation we could have into another day.
We have a long summer.
We do have a long summer. We'll be back next week with another episode. Maybe we'll touch on that a little bit more. We'll see what happens between now and then. For Matthew Winick, I'm Brian Rauf. Thank you guys for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. I'll talk to you guys then.